Hi, everyone, and welcome to Psychic Perspectives. We are doing a series called Life Lessons Learned Through Mediumship, but these life lessons are for anybody. It's not just those who wanting to develop or connect with mediumship or are mediums. These are life lessons that are important to all of us. So if you're on a spiritual journey and you're interested in learning more about what we've learned through mediumship experiences, be sure to like, subscribe, and join us. So let's get started. All right, everybody, welcome. And we are going to get into life lesson number 4. And this is there a heaven and a hell? And I know that some of kind of what we're going to be talking about today is a little redundant. I know we keep saying that in all of the lessons. So just kind of forgive us a little bit because so many of these concepts really overlap. But I know that we really wanted to specifically address this whole notion of heaven and hell. Because I know for me, through mediumship, I don't even look at it that way anymore. I mean, do you? Have you had a radical viewpoint change since you started doing mediumship about heaven and hell?
Yeah, actually, I definitely had a big shift as far as, because I came kind of from a religious perspective, I think.
Likewise, right?
Um, it did change a lot, and I had to kind of wrestle with that. But what's funny is that some things come back full circle, and we'll talk about that. So,
That is very true. That is very true. Right. So we want to kind of talk about how we're going to do the format today. And we're going to start off with a channeled bit that I got. If you've been watching the life lessons, you know that we're sharing our own personal information that we get. We connect with spirit. Sarah does hers her way. I do mine my way. Mine is kind of a channeled or inspired bit of writing. And we're going to start with that first. I'm going to read it and then we're going to discuss it. And then we're going to talk about what Sarah got from spirit and then kind of roll from there. If you are interested, there is, of course, a PDF link where you can download. I always encourage everybody to download that so that you can read along if you want to or have it for your own records. So let's get started with that and then we'll discuss it. It begins by saying, we in spirit begin to speak of heaven and hell, as this is the request that you have made of us today. We prefer not to use these terms as we believe that there are variations of states of being. And by states of being, they mean various emotional states. That's a term that they use with me to describe our emotions, okay?
okay.
So then they go on to say, for example, the mind can be in a state of rage or love, anger or passion. And with each of these, we might feel a sense of heaven or hell. For example, we might love someone to the point of obsession and stalking, just as we might rage against an injustice that brings about change. So we can't say that any given emotion is good or bad. And we've addressed this with you before, meaning me. Okay. And it goes on to say, but what we can say is that the mind is either in a state of turmoil or peace about one's life. All beings of human design fail to remain perfect in their emotional states. Instead, it is the overall mindset that creates this sense of heaven or hell, does it not?
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, and I think, what they're saying here is basically it's like heaven and hell is here and in our heart.
right.
It's how
Yes.
we think about it. It's how we feel. And
hmm
as we go on to go through this, they kind of address this a little bit more. But we've talked about this in previous lessons, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So then they go on to say, of course, what you ask of us is there a place where one resides, where
right.
such things exist in a state of purgatory versus a state of pure bliss? And we say to you, this is not so. What instead happens is that the mind creates its own state of being that it chooses to reside in. This can happen in the physical dimension or world that you live in just as readily as it can happen here in the spiritual realms. That some of you choose to remain stuck or broken or flawed or even enraged on a daily basis sets them into their self-created hell. In fact, you might hear them say to others, this world or place is hell. But is it? So it continues to say, On the other hand, one might also say that the world is full of beauty and love and joy and have a true sense of inner peace. For them, they might say that the heaven they seek is currently at hand, as it should be. But
Mhm.
it is not the but it is not the dimension or location that matters when we think of heaven or hell. Rather, it is one's inner state.
Right.
That is the true place where heaven and hell reside, not in the mind as some concept, but within the heart.
Mhm,
It is
mhm.
here that one can find joy and peace, even amidst anger and pain. It is how you perceive and deal with these issues when you arrive that will set the course for your next adventure.
It's interesting because, when you bring up that it's a place or dimension, I had to think about what I was gonna say because, um, there are differences in the state of mind that you're talking about
Mhm.
versus, like, the dimensions that you speak of, and I think those are separate but can be confused, if that makes sense, because, I know that we do have, like, lower dimensions, like a lower what seems like could be a hell type of a dimension.
But isn't that
Um,
really being set up by the vibrational state of the individual? I think that's what
no,
this is
no, no,
saying.
no, no, no.
Oh,
No,
see,
no,
I
no.
completely disagree with that. So
No, no,
give
no,
me an
no, 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 no,
example.
no, no. Listen to
Okay.
me when I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that when we die, yes, everything that we're talking about here as far as heaven and hell being a state of mind, not an actual coordinate place that you
Mhm,
can
mhm.
go to. What I'm saying is that there are places, dimensionally speaking, that would seem like that. And so that's why I feel like it gets convoluted with people's brains because there are places or lower dimensions, and I'm talking dimensions
Mhm,
as a place
mhm.
versus heaven and hell, which is totally up to the individual.
I get what you're saying. I don't know if I wonder if the listeners will get what you're saying, and we can get back to the channeled work because I think this is really important. It's when let me see if I'm understanding dimensions the way you're describing it, because I think I understand from our many conversations, but correct me if I'm wrong. A dimension is a place, kind of like we're on the earthly dimension right now, and this
Yeah.
dimension functions in a certain way. And so we pass on and we kind of go through the life review, which we've talked about. We kind of have this inner emotional state and so on and so forth. But then we get to choose our next experience, so to speak.
Right.
Right. And it doesn't mean that we have to come back to this earthly dimension. We might want to stay in a dimension in the spiritual realm that where we're having a very positive experience. But there are these other dimensions that might be lower or heavier or darker, and they offer experiences that are very different. So am I verbalizing the way
Yes.
you would frame that?
Yeah, that's basically the crux of it. I mean, I wouldn't have to really re-explain much more than that.
Okay, all
Um,
right. So why would
so
someone even consciously choose a darker dimension?
I'm not saying they would. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that there are places like that. That's all. I'm just
Okay.
saying, and the other thing, like what my guys were telling me is don't sugarcoat anything because I think there's a danger in telling people that heaven and hell don't exist or that they do exist as
Mhm.
places that you have to go to or don't have to go to. So, um, we can either start that conversation now or we can finish what you were saying, or if you're done with your thing. But basically, there's a difference between a lower dimension, which
Mhm.
is not hell. It's not where you're going to be sent to. It's not anything like
Right, you still have
that.
a choice. It's
But
not
there
like a
are levels.
condemnation.
But
Yes.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
dimensionally speaking, there are
Mhm.
levels. And so
Mhm. Mhm.
there's a separation between
Mhm.
what would happen to you in the afterlife and all of these different dimensions. It has nothing to do with the fact that you would be sent to some lower dimension because you were a bad person.
Right.
I'm
I
just simply
agree. I
stating
agree.
that
Yes.
I have I have sent things, they weren't people, but things to lower dimensions where they belong, because that's where they came from. So I'm just saying, like, it's not like, oh, I sent them to hell, because that's
Mhm.
not exactly true. It's just back to wherever they were from vibrationally.
Mhm.
That's the difference. I'm saying, so there is places or levels, I guess, of heaven and hell that would seem like heaven and hell, but everything that we are talking about today, as far as where does your soul go after
Right.
death,
Right.
is totally different.
Right. Right. I agree, and so I hope that this discussion kind of helps people understand where we're coming from. And I know that sometimes when you listen to other mediums and other psychics or people that kind of work in the metaphysical community, they talk about this stuff. Some of them will say, "Well, there's only this pure, beautiful light on the other side." And I think to some aspect, to some level, that is true. In terms of our soul, is kind of this pure, larger, greater divine spark of God. But the amount of experiences that we get to have can take place across a vast array of dimensions. And
Right.
within each of those dimensions are different, like, whether we're going to call them beings or things or, soul manifestations, whatever they are, having experiences.
Yeah,
I mean, is that not fair to say?
absolutely. Yeah, that's totally fair to say.
Right. And so, but I think that we kind of get poo-pooed sometime for, it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Everything is beautiful and love and light. And it's like, well, that's not been my personal experience.
Right. Me neither. Yeah.
It's like, just like we're here on earth, people like, well, yeah, but you're on earth and, like, it's kind of shitty here. And I'm like, yeah, but your soul continues to get to have other experiences. You
Yeah.
might want to have the experience of being a warrior and killing people and going to battle, because that really teaches you something. You might do that on this earthly dimension, but there might be other dimensions that you want to explore that give you other opportunities. Is that fair to say?
Um, yeah, totally. I mean, I would just say that, and this is one of my points that I brought up, is that everything is based off of vibrational levels. So that's why your vibration matters.
It
It
does.
matters.
It
Like
does.
it, I don't want to say that people get sent to hell, but where you vibrationally match, you will end up. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot you can sugarcoat over
And that's
that.
true
So,
even in this dimension, is it not? I mean,
well,
if
in
you've got
life,
people that are,
in living life, it's
yes,
true.
yeah,
So,
in life here and beyond, right? It's
right.
like your energetic vibration or whatever that is. So we could kind of go on and on, but I wanted to just talk a little bit about that dimensional aspect, because we
Well,
choose our
because,
vibration, we choose our
yeah,
state of
because
being. That's
to
what they're
me,
saying here.
like the angels kind of have like their own realm almost, and then
Mhm.
like other things that
Mhm.
like dragons, for example, they live in their own space. It's like their own little area. Dimension is what I would call it. So
Mhm. Different
um
vibrational, which, like you said, different energetic
which
qualities,
is
different manifestations, different
exactly.
experiences.
So
Right.
it's not I don't know.
It's very
It's not like you
convoluted.
couldn't go there. It's just that I don't, if you're not vibrationally a match, you're not gonna like be there, kind of thing. Or you're not
Right.
gonna end up
No,
there, or you might not even be invited there. It's
right,
like,
right. And I think,
so
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. There's a danger though to me. That's why I wanted to make sure that we're not sugarcoating anything, because
Mhm.
I don't want people to think that I think it's yeah, I don't know, irresponsible to tell people that you won't go to hell just because there's not a particular place that's hell, or you will automatically end up in heaven, and that heaven is this perfect
Right. We've talked about that
you,
in other
yeah,
lessons,
because
right? It's
I've
like
heard
your
a lot of
crowd goes
people
with you.
say on
Mhm.
the other side that heaven is overrated, you know? And I'm like, really? That's disappointing.
Mm, mhm.
So it's perception is what it boils down to.
Well, that's
And
part of what the first part of this channeled stuff really had to say, was about your emotional state. Because they
exactly.
said you could even say, well, I love this person, I love this person, but you could do it to the point of stalking and obsession, and that has a negative vibration to it, right?
Right, right,
You
right,
think you
right.
love someone to the point that you're violating their privacy, and you break into their home or whatever. That has a vibrational quality. Likewise, you could be angry about an injustice that's going on in the world, but it's because that injustice needs to be dealt with,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
can't just idly sit by and all love and light. That's not going to change things, I think, either sometimes. So I think that was kind of
Yeah.
the point of the first part of this channeled message. I think you're right about the different dimensions. And we've addressed this in some of our other videos, like the nature of evil and some of those other kind of things, where we've talked about those darker dimensions.
Right.
Um,
Well, yeah, because I got dragged into one. I like
Right.
dragged
And,
into
and
one.
I don't want to get I don't want to get sidetracked here, because I know that we could talk about this, and we both believe from our experience that those dimensions do exist. And I've gotten channeled information about those kinds of dimensions, which was very different for me. I
Right.
believe, like a lot of the traditional mediums did, that it was all love and light and happy go lucky. And then I kind of got this really intense lesson, and I went, wow, this really makes a lot of sense. And I never really thought about it before. But in context of this lesson in heaven and hell, I mean, are you not simply saying there are lower dimensions, but it's not like we die and somebody's going to go, you stole that purse, you're going here, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
is it, I mean,
exactly.
okay. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that people understood that um as far as heaven and hell as a place concerned, it's not the same as the lower dimensions that we're talking about, because those do have seemingly coordinates
Mhm.
and are actual places
Like
versus
spatial locations.
right.
Right.
But
Right.
again, it's not something that you're gonna be like thrown into by a man on a throne kind of
But
thing.
doesn't that beg the question, though, to say, how do people get there? I mean, if
Well,
we
how did I
do,
get there? I don't know. I got dragged in there. So I don't know. But I also got pulled out too. So I
and
don't
have
know.
you not found that there have been spirits that we would consider to have once been human that are in those, some of those dimensions? Yes or
I
no?
have no idea. That could be possible. I mean,
Okay.
I don't want to scare people as far as that is concerned, but I do understand that there can be things that happen where spirits can, drag you into somewhere where you're not supposed to be. I would just like try to tell anyone that is like, if you could remember when you're on the other side that you actually have a lot more power than you think.
Mhm.
Um, and if you have any kind of faith in higher beings, that would be the time to call out to them. And I do believe that with all the near death experiences with people that have gone to hell, a lot of them say that um some of that stuff has like been wiped from their mind, like
There,
to
yes,
even
because there are negative near-death experiences. They are much more infrequent, right? They're not, I mean, a majority of
right.
near-death experiences
Most of
are
them,
positive, but some of
yes,
them are not. And I don't think that
right.
those people had those experiences because they were bad human beings. And so that raises the question, why do some people have those experiences?
Well, I think saying that they're bad human beings is kind of relative because um they are the ones that are holding the guilt. We might look at that person and be like, you're not a bad person, you're a good person, whatever, but deep down they had some sort of guilt or
I don't want to heap
thing or
that
something like that.
judgment on, because somebody could have have a near-death experience and maybe visit one of these darker, have a negative experience. I'm just going to label it a negative experience, because they have the capacity to come back and talk about it. That doesn't necessarily mean that they were a bad person, but they brought their experience forward.
But
That could have had profound purpose.
right, but that's the thing is that so because they had the experience um and then came back, of course, it gave them that perspective of crap, maybe there is something that I need to fix in my life. Most people that have had those negative kind
Potentially, yeah, yeah. I see your point. I see your
experiences,
point.
they
Mhm.
really, really start leaning into the light and God and finding religion and all
Yes,
that, which
because they're generally pretty scary. They're
pretty
generally
scary.
pretty
So yeah, I
upsetting.
mean, I think that that's why I'm saying we can't sugarcoat anything for anyone.
Mhm.
But
Which
at the
is what
same
spirit
time,
told you to say, right? Is
right.
not
And
to
so
sugarcoat
the
it.
thing
Yep.
is like you have to understand it's vibration for vibration.
Mhm.
Um, like can bad things happen? Yeah, there could be like, everything is going to be based on an individual basis, because why do some people get stuck and why do some people not? And I think that it's not always necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes people stay behind. And
Right.
what I
We
mean by
talked about
staying
this.
behind,
Right. Right.
really what I mean by staying behind too is just like literally not going to your life review yet. It's just kind of
Right.
maybe embracing
And we
the
talked about this in
time,
the
but
other life lesson. It's a
right,
personal choice, right? It could be
right.
based on
So
fears, but it's a personal choice.
but the thing is during that time, depending on what your emotional state is, can put you into what most people call purgatory, where if you are battling with these guilt, shame
Mhm.
types of emotions, even fear of just being judged because of your any actions, it might not even be founded. You might just be like, I don't know, what is God gonna say,
Mhm. Right. Right.
you
Right.
don't know,
We
right?
talked
We don't
about that in
know.
another life lesson. You bet. Yeah.
Right. So during that time, though, is when I believe you're putting yourself through a hell. You're putting
Mhm.
yourself through
Mhm.
this kind of purgatory. That's the only word I can
Well,
think of.
and that's what the first part of this channeled message was basically saying. It's about our mental state, so to
Right.
speak. Yeah.
So, I mean, for example, my friend that took his life, okay, he didn't really know what I did as far as being a medium goes. But when I showed up, I tried to cross him immediately. And he is the only person I've ever tried to cross where when I opened the light for him, like he acted like it hurt him. Like it was like, ouch, like it was too much.
No, you weren't
And
forcing him. You were just providing
no,
an opportunity.
right,
I just wanted to clarify that for people because
right,
we
right.
don't
I was like,
force
I'm
anyone.
like, dude, you need to cross. Like this
Right.
is,
Right. 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 Right.
um, yeah, because I would do that for anyone that was my
So
friend.
you were
So
saying he was afraid of
it wasn't that he was afraid. He literally told me he couldn't, like it hurt him. So
why?
well, and I'm going to explain that because to me, it seemed like, um, because of the nature that happened, like he took his own life,
Mhm.
whatever turmoil that he was going through at that time had him at such a low vibrational state that seeing that light was so intensely bright for him, he could not even look at it. Like he couldn't even bear to look at it. And this is why, because his vibration is down here and
Mhm.
this divine light is way up here. He couldn't match it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I was just really irritated and upset that, like I couldn't help my friend kind of thing. And so he kind of gave me this, I guess, new window into what it's like to not be able to cross right away.
Mhm.
And it's kind of a hell. Like it's like he put himself
Mhm.
through a kind of hell, maybe to atone for the way that he died or other things that he felt guilty for in life. But it was like this had to happen before he could actually eventually
Right.
cross. Because I do
Right.
believe that there was a period of time where I was like, okay, I've gone through some of my shit and I'm in a better place now.
Right.
So that was so, it can change. You can go from,
Right.
you know, being in a really bad dark space that will really seem like hell to, okay, I've figured that out. I don't need to be in that space anymore. And that's kind of what your channel message was saying
That's
was
exactly what
that.
it's saying. It's exactly
Mhm.
what it's saying. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like we're the ones that hold all the power.
Yep.
And likewise for me, I've not run into too many individuals who have passed and have not done the life review and then moved on fully to the next step. But I have had a couple of encounters, and obviously, I give the sitter evidence, and so we're sure that we're being careful. We're not just pulling this out of our backside, right?
Right.
And so I remember one of them, he was very specific. Yeah, I'm still smoking, I'm still drinking, I'm still hanging out with the party crowd. He had also taken his own life. And he just didn't want to look at it, and that was fine. And so where he wasn't in hell,
Right.
but he was still living very much the way that he was in this dimension, right? Because we're talking about dimensions. So he
Yes.
changed places, he dropped the body, he moved to a different dimension, but his vibration was very much the same in both dimensions. So when he lost the body and moved to this other dimension, he didn't go kind of to this next experience because he was still living in that same vibrational pattern. So he was very much doing some of the same types of things.
Right.
And it wasn't until he was willing to make that decision to go, okay, I'm ready, and I'm not going to be damned to hell if I do.
Right.
Let's look at this and let's face it. So the hell he created for himself was his choice not to look at anything and to kind of keep living the life that he'd been living here. Not that it was hell, but it had its own party vibe going on for sure.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think these stories are interesting. And I think, like you, I like that we share our perspectives and we want to let other people make the decisions for themselves, because so many traditional classical evidential mediumship talks about just making and comforting people that their loved ones are alive. And I think that that's really what that connection needs to be about. But
Mhm.
then there are some of us, and I know you and I are not the only ones, who have had experiences with other vibrations that people are at. Um,
Right.
and I think that not everyone is prepared to hear that, but some people are. So,
Yeah, I know. It's kind of well, especially because religion puts so much fear bait into these types of subjects.
mm,
And Islam in particular goes very,
mhm,
very in depth
mhm.
on the descriptions of hell and the
Oh my
types of
gosh,
things.
fundamental
Yeah,
Pentecostal. Hello. I mean, same thing.
right. So, what's funny about the person that I cross is that in his religion, they actually don't believe in a particular hell. They believe that you will just become nothing, which is almost kind of scarier, if you ask me.
You
But
disappear. I mean, that's like the complete fatal death, right?
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where like the resurrection comes into play, is like if you're
Mhm.
not chosen for the resurrection, then you
Correct.
just
Right. Right.
basically stay dead.
And
But
that's true in that fundamental Pentecostal view too that I grew up with, that it was like you're going to lie basically dead in the grave until the second coming of Christ, and then you will
right,
be resurrected if you're one of the chosen. Yeah, religion really can do a number on people. And the funny thing that I like about it though is it's honestly, from my experience from mediumship, you talk about these other dimensions and this darkness and all of that other kind of stuff. There's a level of truth in it. There really is, in my
right.
opinion. And you talk to
Yes,
some mediums, some very well-known mediums that are out there that are doing all of this beautiful work. And it's like, to them, it doesn't exist. And so I've had to really question for myself my own mediumship and go, well,
yeah,
why are they having this experience? And I even did it again the other day. We're talking about
right,
love and light. And you talk about that is really where we need to keep our focus. And
right,
even the channeled stuff says that. Keep your
right.
mind set on positive and loving and keeping your inner state in the right state of mind.
So important.
So important, regardless of which dimension, location, place. You use the word coordinate. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
All of those things matter, but there's a shred of truth in religion too, in terms of not everyone is in that same place. And
Right,
just
right,
because we pass on doesn't mean that we're automatically going to go here or there, or that other people are not in these various states.
right. Now, I still have some questions as far as um I guess, how much do your religious beliefs affect what you're going to see? Because sometimes I feel like what
Mhm,
people have believed in their religion,
mhm,
and then like what they see happening in the afterlife afterwards is such a jolt to them that
mhm,
they're like, what, like, I don't understand. And this can cause like a lot of turmoil in their own self. And then some people that see um that maybe they see kind of whatever, they're more open
mhm,
to what's going to happen, seem to have maybe like an easier time with it. Um, but then it's so, I mean, I guess what I'm wondering is, if you believe in heaven and you think that it's going to look like pearly white gates, then that's what you're going to see, or is it just you're going to see what you see? And then likewise with any kind of hell type of experience, am I just going to put myself through, like, what's my worst fear? Maybe that is the nothing, that
Mhm.
that we talk about, like, or that other religions have talked about, I guess,
Mhm.
as far as
Mhm.
like what
Mhm.
could hell be like. Do we just kind of put ourselves through this, like, self purgatory kind of thing? And I think that's largely true, where it's just kind of subject to you and your energy. And that's again going back to the whole vibration for
Right,
vibration.
right, right. I love the points that you brought up. First of them being is you don't have all the answers. I don't either, and it's like I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly expanding. I had an opinion years ago that said I only believe in love and light. And then I had other experiences that started showing me something different. So I think it's important to say that we don't have all the answers. I heard earlier when you were talking, the universe is so vast, and I don't mean the universe as in like our physical universe. I mean the vastness of all dimensions. It is so
Yeah.
beyond our capacity to understand. I would be foolish to believe that I have it all figured out. I can
Right.
only share what we've learned through mediumship and our personal
We
experience.
know this much.
Exactly, exactly. And so with that being said, that's why we do this podcast, is we're sharing our perspectives. You have to explore for yourself. You have to explore consciousness. You need to ask your source, your divine, your spirit, whatever it is, and get those answers for yourself, because that's going to have more impact than any famous person telling you their perspective or us telling you ours.
Yes,
This
please
is
stop listening to famous people.
so, well, I know, I mean, I don't want to say that, because I think that some people are really, really talented, and what they share is true and accurate. But it's their piece of the pie, right? If
Sure.
knowledge is a pie, they're sharing their piece, but we're sharing our piece, and we're sharing our piece. And they may be, you know, very popular because the piece that they're sharing is something that a lot of people really need to hear. We're much more specific. We're much more tailored to certain individuals. That doesn't make our piece of the pie any less valuable, but it's more niche.
Right, right.
So, and
I just meant don't believe people just because they're famous.
right. No. And I think you're right. And I think we do need to have a degree of skepticism, and not skepticism, but just don't lose our
Critical
critical thinking.
thinking, critical
Yep,
thinking
we're right on
skills.
the same critical thinking. You bet. So you also said something in that last part that I liked, about you weren't sure about what people see when they die. And from what I understand, they see what comforts them. I might go to an
Yeah,
ocean when I die. My
right.
loved ones might, which is why loved ones often show up upon passing, because
Yes,
that's where our comfort is. The
right,
person who feels safe for you will
right,
be the person that shows up. If that is Jesus or some other deity based on your religion, then that may be what happens. So overall, from what I understand, most people pass. They're aware that they're going to be passing, even if they take their own life. And so there is a transition. Some people die in more jarring manners, may not know that they've even been killed, and those can sometimes have slightly different experiences. That's not to
right.
say that just because someone kills you, you're not going to have a positive transition. Um, but is that making sense what I'm saying? It's like it's
Yeah,
very
I'm just
person
like, I don't know,
specific.
I'm getting goosebumps really bad all of a sudden. Like, I don't know, like somebody just came in.
Well then what needs to be shared? Is the
I know,
goosebumps
I'm
about
like,
what I'm saying,
what
or is
is
the
going
goose
on right
is
now?
something coming up?
Um, it kind of started when you said that people, whoever you want to see, or whatever
Mhm,
comforting deity would show up, and I was kind of
mhm.
like, gee, I wonder who would show up for me. But I mean, I kind of already know, it's like, and so that's when I felt like this big energy. So I think that's what that was. But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, too, it's like, maybe it could be anything. Just because you believe one thing doesn't mean that's what you're gonna see. um
That
you
is
know,
true, but I think the transition goes gently for you as possible. And then
right,
as you get transitioned a little bit more, that's when your awareness kind of starts to expand a little bit and you go,
right.
okay, everything I
Because
thought I knew might be just a little
this is the
different than what I
kicker
thought I
is
knew.
like for a lot of people that commit suicide, they're like, I thought I was going to be dead. Like I wanted it to be over.
Over. And then,
And
well,
I'm like, sorry, like
life
that's
lesson
not how
number
it,
2, your crap goes with you when you die.
yeah. So
Right.
I do think that some of them experience like this like blackness for a minute. Like it's like nothing, they will, it might experience like a nothingness for a minute. But then when they come back, they're like, wait, I thought I was dead. I thought this would be done, right?
And that's when the
Not for
emotional
everyone.
turmoil kicks in. That's where that vibrational state. Oh my gosh, I killed myself. Now what?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a
And again,
vibrational state.
having to deal with the repercussions of what you've done. So,
Mhm.
you know, ending it too soon is just, it's
But
not
those
only
people
horrible.
don't go to hell. And I think that comes up time and time again through mediumship. Is it
So
just
many
because
religions,
yes.
yeah, so many religions
Mhm.
really say, oh, if you, commit suicide, you're going to hell directly because that's a mortal sin. Well,
Mm-mm. That's just
yeah,
not
but
true.
this is the thing is that when in Christianity they say that God judges the heart, I believe that that's true. I mean, in a way, because it is what's in your heart. If that
Mhm.
person
Mhm.
is in so much pain that they take their own life, do you think God's really going to punish them for that?
Not in my opinion.
No, I don't think so. So I think that you would punish yourself. And I think that you would,
Mhm. Mhm.
understand and feel all this
Mhm.
grief that you have
Mhm.
now put upon other people in the living
Mhm.
realm because
Mhm.
now your absence is felt. Um,
Right.
and there's regret because in hindsight, you will have seen how this was a very permanent solution to a very temporary problem.
Life lesson number 3 on judgment, right? I mean, we
Right.
went through all that in life lesson number 3. So that's why it's like we're building.
Yes.
All of those things apply. So
Right.
anyway, we talked about a lot of stuff. So any more points? And I'm going to get back to the channeling a little bit, and we're probably going to probably have talked about so much of this, but I'm going to get back to that.
Yeah. I don't know if I have more points, but go ahead and
Okay.
finish.
Okay. So gonna jump back in here and pick up kind of in the middle. So it goes on to say, so do not believe that upon arrival one will step through the pearly gates and be awarded the grand prize or sent straight to hell for bad behaviors. This has already been discussed in previous lessons regarding judgment. It is not we in spirit who judge, but rather the self. So it is the self that sets itself up for heaven or hell, joy or pain, growth or suffering. We here in spirit only facilitate the process, no more and no less, and allow each individual, regardless of their worldly deeds, to decide for themselves what world will come next to call at their door. I love that last sentence. Will allow for them to decide for themselves what world will come next to call at their door. And that's kind of, I love that because it speaks to those other options that we have once we pass. What
Right.
world do I want to go to? Do I want to stay in this party dynamic? Do I want to stay kind of earthbound, close to the physical domain? Do I want to cross? Do
I
I
think I'm
want to
done with
go
planet Earth. I think I want to
here?
go to like a different planet next time.
Yeah, but your perspective is going to change once you get out of the physical body. That's your physical body kind of
Yeah, no,
talking
I
to
don't think so
you.
this time. I think I'm pretty sure.
But I love that statement, and in that it basically, when I heard that, I thought that's so beautiful. We get to decide what is next for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We get to
Right.
decide,
Yeah.
right? All right. So they go on to say, so do not set yourself up for failure on any level or in any dimension, for you have the freedom now to decide which realm you live in, heaven or hell. Just as, did you have a comment on that?
No, I was thinking out
You
loud.
sure look like it.
I was gonna say, I want to be in the dragon realm.
So just as when you arrive here, the next level shall be that which you choose to attain or to resist. Attainment will set you forward, while resistance will set you back, holding you captive by the fears and deeds that prevail in your life. So once again, it's all on us. It's
Yeah.
all on us.
Fear is going to be a big holder backer.
Mm-hmm. So they're just about done, and they moved on to say, we will not speak of evil or evil doings at this time, for the lesson today is about the general nature of heaven and hell. It is for each of us to choose the path we desire upon arrival into the spiritual realms. And should one desire a life of purgatory, then this is also one's option. Do not people in the physical world around us choose to engage in gang life, or to ride in fear of others, or to seek revenge through evil deeds? Some will arrive here still angry and still unwilling to walk into the light, and that is their prerogative. God does not change his point of view on the power of free will, regardless of one's life in any dimension. Life is eternal, and as such, one is always allowed to choose their own destiny. If upon death you feel your physical world life is not yet complete and you wish to continue its exploration, even after the expiration of the body, then this too shall be granted to you. It is a wide and vast world, meaning universe, that of eternity and everlasting life. And what you can explore is grander than you can imagine. So choose wisely that heaven or hell that you desire, now or in the forevermore. And that was the end of that. I think these are so beautiful, but I'm probably biased.
No, I think it's great because in like such an elegant way,
They say such wonderful things.
it's really covering though too, like all the different points, that we kind of wanted to get across without, at least for me, without knowing what you were going to say yet. I don't know. And then, going back over it again, it's like, it makes so much sense. And yeah, I don't know. I think they're great. So
it does to me. Thank you. It does to me, and I know though that some people will read it and go, no, and we all die. That's not been my experience. That's not what I've heard. And that's okay. This is my experience, and it's taken me a while to trust these insights, but it makes sense. I mean, free
right.
will doesn't disappear when we die. That comes up continuously. We get to choose. And if I want to continue to be Carol, right? If you watched video last week, or life lesson was it number 2 or number 3, where we had the video of the oversoul? I'll pop that here in this video
Oh,
again.
yeah.
If I don't want to go back to kind of that soul level, but I want to continue experiencing as Carol in some other dimension or reality, I get to do that.
Right.
Now, I may get their life review and go, done with her. She was crazy. Let's go do something else. But maybe I don't. Maybe I feel incomplete after something that happened in this life, and I want to continue to pursue myself as Carol and have other experiences. We have the free will to do that because there's so many opportunities on the other side. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. But this is again about heaven or hell. And I hope that this message has dispelled that myth. So what else did you get from spirit that we didn't touch on maybe in this particular
Well,
message?
we are going to talk about it more again, I believe, in a future episode about how time time is relative. So meaning that it's like, for example, in one of the many Christian beliefs, like when you die, you basically go into what I guess they would consider God's memory or source. And so you're kind of just like existing there before you get resurrected, right? But what I feel like religion lacks to explain is that time is not a thing. Okay. So when we die and we're resurrected, that's like immediately. Okay. So this
I
is like
agree with that. I realize that it might go against some people's faith, but
I understand,
I
but this
I
is
agree
kind
with
of
that.
my, I guess, interpretation now, because so many times I find truth in religion still, even in the way that they're explaining it. It's like, well, if you understood though how it happens,
Totally agree.
even the way they're kind of explaining it is
Totally agree.
kind of true, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm,
you die, you get resurrected, and then you're judged. Well, what is that? That's your life review,
mhm,
right? So, but you're judging yourself along with,
mhm,
I guess the other people that were in your life kind of
mhm,
thing. It's like
mhm, mhm.
you're learning the lessons from a new perspective now.
Right.
And so, um, because of this time being relative, it's like I don't want people to just throw away their religious beliefs or anything like that, but understand how they can be incorporated into this. It's like people.
Beautifully said. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
People
Right.
are constantly demonizing mediumship and psychic abilities because it's the devil, but it's really not. Okay.
Mhm,
And I think that if we understood how this all just kind of applies to everyone on a
mhm,
blanket note,
mhm,
we would just have like an overall better understanding of life and death and how religion all kind of comes in together.
mhm.
So again, going back to the time factor, it's like if you have eternity, what are you going to do with it? You're going to continue
To have
to
experiences.
learn as much
That's
as you can,
right.
because why? Because right now we only know this much.
I mean, who
And
wants to sit? I mean, who wants to die and go, oh, for the rest of your life? You
right.
don't. It's like, we don't want to do that now. How many of you can sit right now and do nothing? I mean, seriously,
I know.
we want to go
It's
do things. We want to have experiences. So many opportunities we get to have after this life.
right. It would seem like such a
Yeah.
waste,
It
to
would
only
be a
have.
complete waste. It would be, your
Yeah.
consciousness is going to continue. Your soul is eternal. So
But
you
then again, like I've said before, understand that this time in your life, as you are physically here now, is extremely important. So
absolutely.
appreciate it. Don't just think to yourself, oh, I got eternity, so I can do whatever I want. Well, no, you're here in the physical now for a reason. You made plans to be here for a
Mhm.
reason. So make the best of it, because why? Because you chose it.
Yes.
You chose it.
Yes.
I chose it.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
all.
That's all. I'm done now. I'm done
That's it.
talking now.
We're out.
Well, I think we really talked about heaven and hell, and I think that the messages that we got from Spirit and the points that we brought up really address it, uh, beating it to death, so to speak. I think we've done it all. I do like the way they said they didn't want to talk about evil and evil doings, because I know that we've addressed this in other videos as well. They felt like it did not belong in this lesson, because I had asked them, I was thinking, well, what about people who've done, we think about that person who murdered. We talked about that a lot in judgment in life.
Yeah, because again, I do think
Yeah,
that that's a totally different category.
it is a totally different category. And I think they kind of talked about that,
Mhm.
but still giving people the freedom to say, or still giving the insight of saying that people have the freedom to choose. If I want to go to the other side and continue to harass and be negative, I can do that. And I have had an experience with a negative spirit who kind of attached himself to me. And the guy was a jerk, had a little girl with him on the other side. I knew about that, brought a medium in. That medium did not know that. And when that medium picked up on that, the way that I was picking up on that, I just started crying, because I felt really validated that I
Yeah.
knew that he had this little girl. The things that ensued out of all of this were absolutely, the experience sucked, but what I learned from it was phenomenal. So
Yeah.
here's this guy, this spirit, just running around, still creating chaos on people.
Yeah.
Douchebag, total douchebag.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why wasn't he in hell, and why was he allowed to do that? And I think that just because we're in this dimension and spirits are in the other dimension, the whole point of mediumship is that these lines blur. Our
They
loved
do.
ones are still here. They're there, but they're
Mhm.
still connected. We can still be connected to negative energies and other dimensions and have these experiences, because we are still learning. I learned so much from this negative spirit bothering me.
Right.
Hated. I was angry. Why are you letting this happen to me? I'm a spiritual person. I'm always focused on the positive, but what I learned from it was priceless,
Hmm.
priceless.
Yep.
And so we have to look at those experiences and understand that they
Yeah,
have
some of the
meaning,
worst
they have value.
experiences that I've had really did teach me so much.
And
For
that's true in
example,
the physical world.
yeah, even like when we were just talking about getting dragged into that dimension, like wow, like that was really bad, but
But that really
man,
taught you how to use your abilities more, right? I mean, it's like
yeah.
that really
Well, and how to
deepened
be
your
safer
capacity.
and be
Mhm.
safe in astral
Right.
and actually really not take for granted your protection for one thing,
Mhm.
because we all are protected on some levels, and I do believe that that's why I was, pulled back out. But at the same time, it's like, don't be so arrogant to think that,
Right.
you can do whatever you want and not be careful, because there are things out there that can
Mhm.
hurt you. So
Right, and it's the same way when people get sick here, and they didn't do anything wrong and it wasn't their fault. Because let's face it, things just happen. And we go, why did this happen to me? I'm not a bad person. And it's like, it's not about that. This is
right.
happening not to you, but for you. And
Yes.
so if you can look at it from that perspective, what is it that's happening? Why is this for me? And the moment it doesn't feel that way, and it didn't when I had my experience or when you had your experience, or if we're having a negative experience, but there's a reason for it. And there's something that you're going to get out of it that will most likely have a gift that you're not capable of seeing at the present time.
Well, it really
So
did show me, are these other dimensions like we talked about. So that was kind of important for sure.
well, with the work that you do, it's very important. It's very
Yeah.
critical. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to thank everybody for watching and for listening. We always love your comments, and thanks to those of you who have had kind words and reached out to us. So as
Yay.
always, please give us a thumbs up. We love those views. If there's something you want to know or you have any questions, put those down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you can catch up on the next life lessons. So we'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.